Very good evening, everybody. Welcome to a wonderful sort of culmination of a fantastic day of piano playing. It's been a real privilege to hear so many of the boys playing today at all different levels. It's been a really wonderful day of piano playing, and we now have a very exciting evening class, really feeling like a recital, which is just very, very, very good. I'd like to introduce our adjudicator, who's given during the day such support and encouragement, some really wonderful music ideas. Luis Perez is an amazing pianist himself, but also works very closely with young people in education, both one-to-one as a piano teacher, but just in a broader perspective as well as director of music currently at Forest School and soon to be at Allen School. So we're very, very lucky to have him with us, and he'll be sharing some thoughts with you all after your performances. But I'd like us to get started, first of all, please, with Lucius. Thank you.
done anything tonight. It's all been absolutely incredible playing from everyone these days. So really, I just want to say, before I really start talking about music, just to say how impressed it's been throughout the day, what an enjoyable afternoon it's been. So much talent and particularly so much dedication to the craft. I think it's very important when young players come and play this beautiful instrument full of people. You know, that idea of trying to communicate something beyond words with in an instrument that is, of course, fantastic, as we all know, best instrument of all, but also something that is incredibly difficult, that requires hours and hours of practice, hours and hours of understanding, actually, what you're going to do with your fingers, with your feet, breathing, and so many other elements in the music, understanding what's happening in the structure, in the harmony, and just really trying to translate all that very complex language into something so simple that you can just sit down and enjoy, no matter how difficult or easy it is. And I think that is something quite extraordinary, something that we are very lucky to be experiencing as musicians. And I think that all these boys are doing extremely well. So can we just please give them a round of applause? Before I start even talking about this final class, to announce some highly commended. It's been a really fantastic set of 5 classes in which it was all about the immediate feedback and just really kind of trying to get a little bit more detail into their performances, not without that competitive element. But I wanted to mention some highly commended today for what I thought were some outstanding performances. First, we had Ed in the class 1 with a prelude in E minor by Chopin. Then in class 2, we had Oliver playing the melody by Grieg, and also we had William, the sonatina in C major by Poulard, which was a fantastic performance. In class 3, we had the F sharp major prelude by Chopin, played by Yumu, and also the Finley playing the McCormick in the groove, which was also terrific. Class 4, we had William with Popcorn, and Alex, who played the Countess One by Moskowski. And finally, in the class 5, we had Theo, who I really loved his performance of Grieg, as well as Jerry, who played the Chopin waltz, the minute waltz, extremely well. So huge congratulations to all of them, but also to all of their performances for their brilliant playing this afternoon. And now I'm going to give you a few comments of today's performances. Please kind of show me where you are when I mention your names, but I'll try to be as brief as I can. So here we go. Lucius, where are you? Great. So thank you for your beautiful performance of the C sharp minor Rachmaninoff prelude. I thought you showed commitment right from the first note, and I really enjoyed the way that you were shaping each phrase so carefully. There was so much expression and control in the tone production, and you really grew. The sound really grew as the performance moved on. There was a real understanding of the harmonic movements, and I thought, particularly in that first section, that wonderful way of crescendo was very evident, and the way also that you subtly shaped some of the cadences, though I thought occasionally you wanted to get to a place and then you kind of slightly, occasionally just turned into a different direction. So just maintain that sense of consistency in the way that your tone production is evolving in your performance. Try to be more careful with your pedaling. I thought occasionally you were under-pedaling whenever you had the same chord on the bass and at the top, but occasionally then there was a little bit of over-pedaling when you had many harmonies moving very, very quickly. So try to be a little bit more consistent with those half pedals in that opening section. The middle section was fantastic, really well managed, and I thought that sense of growth was really evident. I love the way that even though it was an incredibly busy section, you always shaped the melody very carefully, and I always felt that every phrase ended before the next one arrived with a really lovely breathing. Try to reach that fantastic climax with the interlock passage with a more focused crescendo. I thought you kind of move from one level to the other one very, very quickly. So if you can try to make it grow more convincingly, that would be fantastic. But enormous sound at the end, always think melodically even, and that will apply to a few of you. Just always think melodically, even in the loudest of moments. Always know that a phrase has a start and has an end, and that you can really plan which point is going to be the loudest one in your performance, so that everything else, so you have a clear moment for your climax. But you exploited the sound, the tonal range of the piano fantastically well, and I thought there was plenty of expression and commitment in your performance. So thank you so much. Well done. And then we had Luca. Where's Luca with the Nocturne in F minor? Beautiful sound. I thought the moment you started the Nocturne, I could hear the ringing and the resonance of that melodic line. There was plenty of cantabile, and I thought you managed the balance extremely well in this piece. There was this almost kind of this very peaceful and atmosphere that you created, and your rubato was very well thought out in that opening section. It was very, very delicate. It was never overdone, and you managed to create a lovely sense of continuity as well as a sense of breathing. When you have such kind of similar texture for such a long time, there are ways in which perhaps you can bring a little bit more color, potentially with the left-hand chords and the tenor line. Just try to think about how that tenor line is interacting with the main melody, just to add a little bit more interest as the same melody is repeated a few times. In the middle section, I thought you captured the contrast really well in the mood right from the beginning, and I really enjoyed the rubato that you played on the first phrase. I thought it was very personal. I had not heard that before, and I said, oh, that's really, really brilliant. So well done for, for bringing something new to a piece that you have probably heard endless amount of times. But after that, try to vary your rubato when you have the same phrase. So don't always try to, you found a fantastic formula to ta 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 ta, but then next time do ta 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 ta. So just kind of keep the music moving, because it's so that you can always keep us in the at the edge of our seats. Some of that tension and almost sense of bravura that needs to come from those left-hand arpeggios could have been exaggerated a little bit more right after that. But I thought your coda was beautiful, so many colors and a very transparent ending, very musical and very personal, which was lovely to hear, so thank you. And then we have Kelvin with the Debussy. Thank you, Kelvin. I thought you had a fantastic way of conveying the rhythmic structure of this piece. It's an extremely complicated music, and you did this with so much ease and control, and that sense of that evocative feel of the playing was really well portrayed. So much detail in articulation, so much detail in the way that you voiced actually the music, and I loved so many of the colors that emerge from the middle of the keyboard. That is something extremely difficult to do. Whenever we have, when we go to the extremes of the piano, it's all very fine, but when you have to create that layer of sound in the center of the keyboard, it's something really difficult to do, and actually you did that extremely well. So very, very well done. I think for these preludes, I think just to take it to the next level, just remember that this is an impression of something. These are impressions of perfumes and impressions of the night, and I think you could have had created more ethereal, what I call ethereal sounds, where we're not fully pressing into the keys, but we're actually creating half sounds, or creating almost fake sounds that you can do with playing a little bit with the pedal, and kind of balancing your hands, not in the usual way that you would do with a Mozart sonata, for example. So try to explore that ability to kind of paint those images in a very much in an impressionistic way. So we can kind of see it right from far away, but it's not so clear. Occasionally, the tone was very much too present in a way, and I think you can be more kind of absent and just kind of make us think, oh, what's actually happening in here? And I think that can add a wonderful layer to what you're already doing extremely well, which is managing all those different, difficult and complex textures in the music. So really well done for tackling such a wonderful piece and some really beautiful moments of introspection towards the end of your performance. So thank you. And then we had Adam. Where's Adam? With the transcendental study. Yes, you know, brave and furious is what a wonderful start of the 12 edges. I was hoping you would play the next 11 after that. And if you can, just listen to Yushan Lim, who was the winner of the latest Van Clive one, who played all 12 in his final round. Fantastic. I thought you really captured, you know, this is just about show off and just so much energy in here. And you really did that right from the start. I love your arpeggios. The tempo was great. The arpeggios, descending arpeggios were fantastic. And all that voicing, all that chromatic voicing ascending was really, really well controlled. Really wonderful finger movements in here. You kind of brought a smile to my face when you did those chord progressions, because actually you were playing so well, and suddenly you did this. You played 2 chords and then your shoulders came like this. It's something you didn't like or something that happened in that moment that you didn't agree with. And then what happened is that your sound kind of halved. It was kind of not as grand as it should have developed. So always remember, it doesn't matter what happens. And actually I don't think you did anything wrong. But I think you just really need to make sure that in that chord progression, this is the moment where, you know, we're going to have this enormous amount of sound in there. So just really practice that, just being fearless. And if you play a wrong note, look, you just played probably thousands of notes in a minute and a half of music. So it's absolutely fine to play something wrong. Just keep that sense of control in those final arpeggios. They just need an extreme sense of clarity and control at the end, and that voicing, don't lose that sense of direction and urge. I think my comment here, which is probably without wanting to repeat too many times, just take more risks when you are. I can see that you knew every single note in this piece, but and you took risks at the start, but then you became a little bit more cautious. That's not allowed in this. Okay? So you just need to go for it, because that's the whole nature of the piece. But really well done, Finnish etude, and you know, it looks easy only in 2 pages, but it's an absolute nightmare. So well done. Then we had Mark with the Pathetic Sonata. Mark, I really enjoyed your sense of you know, connection and urge that you had with this music. You started, and I said, oh, this is going to be really good and, you know, and controlled, and also in the Beethoven style. I thought there was so much energy in all the accentuation that you did. You were fantastically precise in your rhythms and in your pauses, in those you know, long semi-briefs that you just need to wait, and you know, you didn't rush. You just played everything with a great deal of control and fantastic shape, I thought, as well. So the sense of intent. Your first episode with the triplets was just bright and light, and there was a fantastic sense of connection with the music that I really enjoyed. The second episode in A flat, I thought that needs a little bit more of a sense of breathing and a sense of release with all the amount of tension that has happened in this music. So think of that more in a chorale-like manner, in which you can enjoy those ascending and descending fourths and fifths, and allow the music just to get a little bit of breathing and a little bit of calm before the storm comes back again with all those arpeggios and the G major arpeggios that are happening later on. There's an opportunity for exploring a few more colors occasionally. When you know, it's very rare, and particularly at that time, it's very rare for music to be written so high in the register. And if you know that Beethoven wrote this piece for a fortepiano, in which the highest note was an F, and not so much here, but just that's a C, so around here. And that actually, he uses that note really, really well. So actually you have to think that he was actually right at the top of the register there, and creating all these sounds that have not been explored before. So try to you know, we are using a modern instrument, we are using a completely an instrument that is not what Beethoven thought had. But actually we have to almost recreate this sense of excitement that you would have, trying to create those like kind of music box sort of sounds when the theme comes out towards the end, and all those triplets that are going toward afterwards. There are many ways in which the ending, sorry, I keep moving and then, but you know, there are many ways in which we can play that ending. I am one of, and I'm not a purist here, but I'm an absolute advocate, and you know, I just contradicted myself, that that needs to be played at tempo. So I think don't ruin the surprise in a way of that you know, he did it quite on purpose to kind of have this absolute precision of time, and we need to create that element of surprise with color rather than with time. But I loved your playing. I thought it was so engaging and committed. So well done. Thank you. And then we had Edward. Where are you? So Edward, I loved your tone production. I thought you really, and I wrote it in here. There was your ability to play piano and pianissimo with so much lightness and so much control, and yet a huge amount of energy. You really evoked some of the great jazz pianists that we can hear, and I thought you really captured that essence in this piece. With you know, I can see that I could hear that you understand this music extremely well. Your sense of structure was fantastic, and the ability to create colors and dynamics and just really move from one block to the next was fantastic. It's not, you know, the most how do you say, it's almost like feels like you're playing one thing in here and then one thing in here and rather than kind of this seamless transition that you would have perhaps in a Mozart sonata, but you actually did that extremely well, and you understood what the remedy was. I think with a piece that is based on rhythm, because this is effectively a rhythmic exercise, I think you have to have, and I wrote in here, keep the pulse as strict as humanly possible. Because you almost have to, you know, I always recommend my pupils, just eat a metronome for breakfast. And it's, you know, and you will have this fantastic, you know, but you have to have so much precision in there, because it's not so much about, oh well, you just rushed in this section and that's it. It's not about that. It's because the rhythm is so complex that we need to allow for our audience to really understand exactly what's happening in there. So with that fantastic sounds and the fantastic finger ability that you have, try to create that absolutely strict and focused sense of pulse, because that's what's going to create an even greater sense of excitement and control. And I think that's, but I thought just, you know, and that occasionally when you rush, you know, the clarity of the articulation, potentially when you had those octaves of inner notes, you know, you lose them, and you shouldn't, because you're a terrific pianist, and the amount of sounds that you produce were fantastic. So really great. Just kind of work on a little bit of that, and it would be even better. So bravo, well done. And then we had James. Where's James? Yes, another easy piece to perform. And yeah, I thought, you know, what a left hand. You know, I'm jealous actually. And you know, I thought there was a great sense of energy, of course, in what you did. But what I wrote first actually was not about comments about your left hand. But what I really enjoyed in your performance was that there was a sense of declamation in your right hand, in the melody. And I thought occasionally, although occasionally you could have projected it even more, I thought there was always a sense of shape in that melodic line. You know, this is, of course, we have 1 million notes in that left hand, and all those chromaticisms are going to be quite dense and quite difficult for us to understand, and that's why that element of melody is so important in this piece, because it's not about it's about pa-pam, pa-pam, pa-pa-ra-pa-pam. And that is the important part of this music. And I thought you did that very, very well. With that, I think, you know, and I think, you know, we've all, you know, I was also part I did it so many times as well. We can get so engaged and so kind of emotionally connected to the music that we always want to do more and more and more and more and more. But even though we want to think that they have infinite powers and infinite amount of sound, there's going to be a point, particularly because of the writing of the piece, that there's going to be a limit to how much you can do that is nice to the ear. You know, we can always push and make very unpleasant sounds, and that's completely a different thing, potentially a different composer as well. So you need to know exactly where you're going to arrive and say, this is going to be the loudest, the absolute loudest point. And you actually have to practice that. And you have to really understand that at that point, you want everyone in the audience to go like this. Because we have been building up, and this is it. And I think you didn't plan that well when you have that enormous final second half. It's not that it was, please don't take it as it was bad, it was absolutely fantastic play. But try to think about how you reach those points, because we always need that sense of line and that sense of growth and sense of release. That's all music is about. Tension and release, and I think it's something for you to kind of think about. But I thought it was fantastic pianism, sense of pianism in here, and absolutely fearless. So well done, well done. Kyle, yes, okay, Kyle. I thought. Yes, your opening was just absolutely stunning, and the colors that you produced in that opening I have not heard in the whole day, and I thought that it was almost like we just suddenly changed the piano, and here we are with a new instrument. Here we are with a completely new soundboard, which was absolutely right. I mean, that's the essence of these preludes by Debussy, and you really evoked, there was a beautiful sense of an evocative feel in this music, a sense of mystery and a mysticism around the sounds that you were producing that were really captivating. Your sense of structure was really wonderfully conveyed, and you did not go over the top in that transition section where everyone just really, we start having all those wonderful things in the left hand and immediately we're going to fourth. No, you really kind of held your own there. And there was a lovely clarity in some of the different rhythms, some of the semi-quavers against the triplets. And, and within that, it was just one whole sound that you were producing. So I thought that was really, really well done, because that's the whole point. We have so many layers in the music, how the music is being built, but then you have this almost unified sense of sound, which it was really wonderful to hear. Something similar that I mentioned to James. Don't try to plan ahead of where your biggest moment is. And although I didn't feel that that you arrived at any fortissimos very soon, whenever you have those enormous moments of chords, always think on a horizontal and outer way in which you can really feel that the sound is not going to go in, but that it's going to go out through your muscles and through your arms. And that way you will always have a sense of line in those big chords. Even if they are as grand as you did them, which was absolutely terrific. Just always remember, where is my melody? Where do I want to go? And which one? And effectively, one has to be louder than the other if you really want to have that sense of lyricism, even in the greatest of places. It's all very subtle. It's going to be perhaps some very, very minute, because I don't want you to be doing, enormous crescendos or diminuendos in that glorious, sound. It's a wash of sound that we want, but we still want to know where your melody is going to go. Just a couple of blemishes in pedaling for someone who plays so well, but I thought it was really beautiful playing, so musical. Well done. And then we had Owen with Les Adieux. Owen, I thought your performance just grew in, not only in confidence, but in understanding as it went through. And I have some comments for you, which I will say perhaps about the opening. But the more I heard your main allegro, I just thought, wow, you really understand what this music is about. And it's an incredibly difficult sonata. It's a very difficult concept to grasp about a piece that is about goodbyes, that it sounds so happy. And I think you really understood many of the musical elements that were happening in this movement. Some of those horrendously difficult chromatic passages, you managed them with so much ease and control. And so I thought there's so many things to commend in your playing. So really well done, and well done for choosing such a difficult piece. I know it's often I hear pupils wanting to play this piece because of the third movement, but they never want to play the first movement in public. So really well done, because this is the really difficult one. The other one is, it has got another set of complications. But I love your opening horns. I thought when those first three chords and that horn, French horn calls in the orchestra were really, really clear. And there was a wonderful way in which I could hear many of the layers of this music, which is pretty much orchestral. You can hear the orchestra in this opening here. I think you could just observe a little bit more detail in the score, particularly in articulation. I thought occasionally your pedal did not allow for some of those phrases that are so specific, ta, 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 that you have to have that kind of absolute precision in articulation. Some of the sudden dynamic changes that need to happen, you need to really drop that chord, C flat major chord on the second horn. That is a surprise. That needs to have a completely new soundboard. But most importantly, your rests. Yes. So when you do ta-dum, pam, pam, they need to be so precise, because those rests are, going to build up. It's going to be effectively the build up to what's going to come next in that subito in the allegro. So try to be as precise as possible with your rhythms in that opening. I thought your pedaling actually improved enormously in the recapitulation, and I could hear that sense of growth. Bum, bum, bum. So that became much more melodic as you progress, as the performance progressed. But really well done. So many wonderful qualities in your playing, and a really eloquent coda. I thought that image that we have of that same motif coming at the end in such a bare texture. You did that extremely well, so well done. And then we had Cayden with the Rhapsody. Yes, this was, passion 100%, and I really like that. You just went for it right from the first note. Such an intense approach to this music, and I really like that, because this is a very special piece in Rhapsody. So it's occasionally, harmonically quite awkward, and but at the same time, it has this kind of inner energy that you need to project, and I really enjoy that. It's triplet after triplet, and we need to create so much contrast in this music, having it effectively the same rhythm all the way through from the first note to the last. So well done. I thought that you did so many fantastic things in here. Occasionally your fortes and your fortissimos just became a little bit unshaped, so always try to, perhaps something that I said before, just always try to make sure that you don't give everything too soon. And when we have staccato chords that are moving quite fast, try to avoid a vertical movement in your arm, because although that can be kind of the intuition that you have, it's not always going to help you shape the music very, very well, and you will lose that sense of connection occasionally with the rest of the music. It's very interesting. You did it so well. When you have the triplets and bum ba bum ba bum bum ba bum with the dotted rhythms in the left hand, you did that fantastically well. But don't forget that there's a melody in the top of your right hand, and it's actually it's really, really hard to project it, because we all think, everything is moving in the left hand, and then the right hand has got the most boring melody of all time, which is dum 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 dum. It's the same note, but you still need to give me dum 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 very bronze and grounded. And I think just try to keep that sense of lyricism in there, so that then when you have that incredibly exciting left hand moving, it's going to be complementary rather than I'm just going to listen to the left hand on its own. Your development, those harmonic shifts are so awkward sometimes. And not awkward, I don't want to say put the word awkward next to drums, but unpredictable, let's call them. And I think you really can make greater use of the piano and the pianissimos and timing, and just be a little bit more ethereal, because you're kind of getting lost in those harmonic movements. We never land anywhere. The moment there's a cadence, it's never a cadence that finishes anywhere. It's always going to finish in first inversion, occasionally second inversion. You know that we are all over the place, and so try to really create a sense of searching by try to explore a few more sounds in that middle section. But I love the intensity and the quality that you were producing in there, and it was a fantastic sense of structure from one section to the next. So thank you very much. And I think that is it. So really well done to all of you. I really enjoyed all your performances. I have to choose third, second, and first, and I think there's a big trophy in here for the first prize, but third prize is going to go to Adam for his transcendental study. The second prize, and this was very, very close in here, but the second prize goes to James for his Rachmaninoff. Well done. And the Wharton prize, first prize, goes to Kyle.
To all our performers. What a wonderful evening. It's been such a privilege. And actually all day it's been a really fantastic experience of hearing all of you play so beautifully. A massive thanks to our amazing adjudicator. Luis Perez has shared such kind of care and real thought, I think, into each of his adjudications, really thinking about not just what was wonderful about your playing, but how you might take it even further. So we're very grateful to him. Thank you all very much for coming, but can we give him one more big round of applause?